Hello,
Okay.
everyone. Welcome to the February State TA Day webinar. Can someone confirm that you can see we have images on the screen and hear my voice, please?
And are those images a slide deck that says Lena Grow?
Yes.
And why is Lena Grow in the EQ initiative getting the thumbs up there too? Thanks.
Okay. Thanks so much, Eva. All right, we have Lisa Matter and Cece Dong-Brin to kick us off regarding EQIT and the Lena project. Go ahead.
Thank you, Monica, and thanks everybody. I know we were just chatting before we got on that I know a lot of us spent already 3 hours on Zoom this morning at the ECLC meeting, if that was your only meeting today. So thank you for coming back to this meeting. Again, as Monica said, it's being recorded. So if it's too much to attend to, it'll be here to come back to. In the quarterly reporting that we asked for at the end of Q2, about half of early childhood councils who currently implement EQIT, EQ initiative activities said, yeah, we would like to learn more about Lena Grow. And the most thrilling thing for me about that is, and I'm going to tell you a story about my temporary coworker. I have a second grade temporary coworker this week, and he said to me yesterday on one of his many breaks, Mama, I have so many questions. I even have questions about questions, like what is the question? It's like, this is why I can't get anything done. But that ability to feel curious, it tells us that we're getting to a resilient, we're building some resilience in this period we're in. And my other sharing great news, literally 15 minutes ago, got the pictures only on text message of my parents' second shot. Both my parents got their second shot today. So that relief as we move forward. So I was so excited that you were curious about things, that you are moving forward and curious, which doesn't mean that we all have all of our skills accessible to us right now, but we're thrilled about seeing that resilience. So from a very big picture, why Lena Grow, why in the EQ initiative? We know that quality improvement for infant and toddler childcare takes all of these four blocks. Those bottom ones, we were all just on the ECLC meeting for 3 hours. We know we're working on those pieces, but for the last 20 years, the EQ initiative has focused on that top triangle. Strengths-based professional development for infant, toddler, early care educators that deepens expertise. We're called expanding because we expand the quality that's already there, the relationships and interactions that are already there. In the past, that's primarily been the EQIT course and its attendant coaching model, EQ coaching with the EQ Relate. And we've supported at times various other professional development pieces like touch points, like cradling literacy, like the growing brain, sort of more intensive series-based professional development for infant, toddler, early care educators. Lena Grow provided us with an opportunity to really look at some enhanced coaching within this context of the work that we already do, that you already, I say we, but it's the work that your infant toddler specialists in your communities already do. So, and I'm going to pass over to Cece to tell us a little bit about Lena Grow. And I'm not sure if your actual video is in here, Cece, or if we need to switch to you being the presenter.
Hey, I dropped the video link in there, but it looks like it's not pulling up. Oh, there it is. If you just click on that picture, Lisa, I think it might play.
Let me do that and see if it either moves forward or if it does the video. It's just moving forward. I was afraid that might happen. Do you have a link to it?
Yes, I do. You probably could have troubleshooted this prior to the webinar. I wasn't even thinking. Let's see.
And as she's doing that, I'll just make the blanket statement, as always, questions that are coming up in the moment or that you had in your mind about Lena Grow, pop them into the question box, question and answer over there on the side of your screen. And we'll be available afterward to talk about what Lena Grow is and how it works.
Lisa, are you able to see the, I just chatted the link in if you want to pull that up on your screen.
I miraculously have many, yes. Okay. And then somebody give me a thumbs up that that's the screen that you're seeing.
Yep.
Okay, and we'll cross our fingers that sound comes on.
No sound. I think, Lisa, it's okay if I can just talk through what the video was if you want to just go to the next slide.
All right, so since that went into the chat too, you should be able to watch this video at your own leisure. We'll pop back onto talking about how Lean to Grow works as a coaching intervention. And you just tell me when to forward slides.
Thanks, Lisa. And I'm excited to be sort of a guest today on your call. And so we have been working with EQ, IT, and really implementing Lean to Grow across the state in expanding quality. And Lena is, for those of you that don't know, we are a nonprofit. We are based in Denver or Boulder, but we work nationally with programs, and our focus is really on accelerating language. And those types of interactions, as we know, are so foundational to responsive caregiving. And so that's really the synergy between Lisa's team's work and our work with Lean to Grow. And so how does it work? Lean to Grow is a program that you would bring to whether you're a center-based provider, family child care provider. We work with Head Start partners as well. And it starts with what we call a Lean a Day. So it's a day where the kiddos in a center would put on our little recording device. We call it a talk pedometer because it's like a Fitbit, but it's counting language. And so when kiddos enter in the at the beginning of a day, you turn it on and you put it inside a little piece of clothing. And then we say it's like a crock pot. You set it and you forget it. And then you're going to take it off at the end of the day. When it gets plugged into our Lena software, that entire day of language that's been captured gets uploaded into our software that basically analyzes it and shares that that language day in a report. And so the process starts with that Lena day. It turns it into a feedback report that can be utilized to improve quality, to coach, and to really build and increase those interactions. And then, Lisa, you can click the next piece. And so that cycle works with that coaching over the course of 3 months. We call it an overall a Lean to Grow sequence. And so one day each week there would be a Lena day, and then there would be a coaching day. And so as you sort of go through that sequence, by the end, what we have seen in all of the sort of impact data, evaluation data, the anecdotes, the data that Lisa and I have seen from current ECCs that are doing it, we see increased interaction. And in the broader scope of it, from Lena's perspective, we're building more kindergarten readiness by building those foundational literacy skills. But it's also really, we're just taking care of kids and being tuned into them. And that's really a huge part of our work. So I just wanted to show what one of the reports looks like in Lean to Grow. And so if you were a provider or teacher or the coach, the first page of the report, there's actually quite a few different pages, might look like this. And so this is a summary from a toddler room with 5 kiddos. And right at number 1, you'll see the total stars earned. And so we have this embedded incentive program where you're accruing stars over the course of the program. And it's just, it's a small way to inspire providers. And we've seen some centers where like they'll put a sticker chart of the stars outside the classroom doors, and teachers get competitive about who's getting more stars. But those will always sit at the top of the report. The second thing that you'll see is the average conversational turns per hour that you had over the course of the day. So it's kind of overall in the room or in the home, how much conversation was happening between the adult and the caregiver and the child. And then the third piece that you'll see is it actually breaks it down by the entire hour. And so you can kind of see what parts of the day, what routines are associated with really high interaction, and where are the places you might want to improve. And then the fourth and fifth pieces are what we call an interactive talk clock. So it just breaks out the day and it highlights based on how many conversational turns baseline that are happening. And one of the powerful things that we hear a lot is that bottom right piece that you see, where it actually breaks down every child's language experience. And so you can actually see, is there a consistency? Is there a disparity? Why or why not? And so even if the video actually that I was going to share, one of the center directors was sharing, we had a center that was ranked really high quality, but then when we drilled down to look at the individual students' experience, it was completely disparate. And it really opened our eyes around how do we make sure every child is getting that rich language experience. So again, these reports, as Lisa mentioned, it's really a strengths-based approach to coaching. We look at what's going well, what do you want to celebrate, and what do you want to work on? And again, the objective data has been one of the pieces that teachers and providers say is one of the best pieces about the program. They get to immediately see their strategies being impactful in the reports week to week. I think, Lisa, that might be the only slides I have. Oh, this is over the course of those the average 3 months I shared. This is what the session sequence looks like, and so it does come with that coaching curriculum. And so between each session, there's that Lena Day, and then you'll see the sort of the tips and strategies that are embedded into each of those sessions.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that in here because we've had a couple people say, I'm interested vaguely, and then like, what does it really look like? Because we know that with coaching with the EQ Relate, you really are having that regular coaching cycle, but there isn't a sort of outside structure that says, come and get this many hours, come and participate this much. So when someone, when a program or a classroom or an individual in that classroom participates in the professional development side, not just the data collection of those back and forth interactions, the coach is still going to be going through this same support. This coach is still going to be an EQ coach, planning the observation. The observation here is that data that's on that talk clock. That when you look back at that, this data like this is the data that the coach and the coaching partner will be talking about when they're having that reflective session. And there's a little bit of structure built into these where you can see these 10 sessions have a little piece of content that the coach will be delivering while they're having that coaching session, and really diving deep into that, into what is happening in that classroom. And so we wanted to highlight this. This is an opportunity that all councils that are participating in the EQ initiative can consider, and we're excited that you're interested to consider, so we want to take this time to just give some more information. Some of the data that drove our interest in this enhanced coaching model was that generally evidence is mounting that coaching is where change happens. Training is good, it's important, it's built into our systems for a lot of reasons. Coaching is where change happens. Any of us who are trying not to gain 30 pounds during the pandemic know that we need a coaching partner to help us. We cannot do this on our own. And that's true of improving your practice in care and education. We also reviewed our data and found that compared to the more than half of infant and toddler slots that are in family childcare homes, we serve more than 80% of the people who participate in EQ network provided opportunities are in center-based settings. So I do want to just highlight gratitude to Arapahoe's Early Childhood Council and Triad's Early Childhood Council, who were those early adopters. We were initially funded privately by Constellation Philanthropy for a first rollout that we focused only on family childcare homes. And we wanted to clear up confusion that it's not just for family childcare homes. We wanted to see how it worked, and it worked amazing. And often those talk clocks all started out in the green because good family childcare homes are really good places for babies. Babies really can have those one-on-one interactions and get their needs met because they're one of 2 babies instead of maybe one of 10. It's more, you'll have more work to do as a coach in a center-based setting when you look at the data. So thank you to Triad and Arapahoe. Also, Douglas County, Fremont County have worked, have implemented this a little bit, and Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council just getting started. Another injection of funds from the Preschool Development Grant is supporting that kind of expanded pilot. And there's just, I want to just say 2 ways to think about this. When I say that it's a enhanced coaching, it could be connected, it could be the coaching you provide when someone is taking EQIT. But it could also be, as we set it up in the family child care homes, have its PD embedded in it and then have count coaching hours and PD together. So there are steps you could take. We're not going to go into these right now, but there's steps you can take. They're laid out, and we can help councils figure out if this is something you want to do. Right now, our constraints are the number of coaching hours we can afford to implement and the number of those talk pedometers we have, which is, I wrote it down this morning, but not on that piece of paper. I want to say it's 300, and we're going to be through 380, thanks to Constellation and thanks to the Preschool Development Grant, which constrains us to about 5 cohorts in each sort of semester of the fiscal year. So it's going to be a tiny bit competitive. That's great for us. And I think that's all the things that I wanted to say about that. And I'm not, actually, I can't tell now if there's any questions in here. I'm going to just pop in, see if there's any questions, but we'll be here if other questions come up. Oh, thank you. And I do see Vanjie in here, and I can't quite see exactly what this question is, but
no question. Just says we love to grow.
Without our support,
to grow and are happy to talk to interested folks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vanjie.
Thank you. Because they have implemented it on their own, separate from the EQ initiative. We can support some, but we don't own it the way we own EQIT. So we're happy to help you figure it out if you don't want to use EQ initiative funds, but would like to learn to implement EQ, Lean to Grow in your community. I think we've taken way more time than we were afforded, so we'll stay here and be ready to answer questions, but give the presentation back to whoever is next.
Thanks so much. Now we have our PDG update with Angela and Kristen. And Angela and Kristen, who is presenting today?
Hey, I think we can probably both present.
I guess who wants the screen?
Oh, that is what you were asking. Yep. Either one. Angela, I don't know if you have it up. I have it up too.
I do as well. I can do it.
Thanks, Angela.
All right, we'll send it to Angela.
Let me see, I'm on 2 screens here, so I'm not sure what you can see or when you can see it.
Cannot see it yet.
There you go.
Okay, we can see it now.
Okay. Sorry, it's giving me a little bit of trouble here. All right, there we should be good.
Thanks, Angela. If you want to go ahead and move on to the business slide. So thank you everyone for having us back. I know we have a short period of time with you. I just want to flag, we will as always send these, and actually Angela already has sent these slides to Monica so she can send them out to you after the presentation, and they have live links in them, so you should feel free to use those afterward. You'll notice we added in citations to the strategic plan. So we received stakeholder feedback that we really need to do a better job of tying what we're talking about through our PDG grant back to that Colorado Shines Brighter strategic plan. So for the business support strategy, you'll see that we reference that section of the strategic plan that's focused on strengthening business practices. So we're excited to share we do have the contract in place with OEDIT for this year's Small Business Development Center business trainings and consultation. We asked that this year they really focus their efforts on 3 specific tracks. So we're getting people into the right course based on their needs. So centers is one track, family childcare homes is another, and then startup and expansion, whether that's a home or a center, is a third track. And so they're identifying themselves which of their tracks their content is falling under. And then we will share that information through the marketing of the sessions. There are a few that are available now, and any that are open for registration are on our PDG website. In what used to be called the PDG 2020 grants and opportunities tab, it's now renamed available training, professional development, and grants, or something of that nature. But it's in the same exact spot. You'll see it. And we have all the registration information there. Right now we have one on-demand series that's going to run through the calendar year. And providers who attend all 9 modules of that on-demand session and at least 2 of the consultation sessions that are available through that will receive professional development credit in PDIS. And then we're really excited to announce that we have available for registration a Spanish language family childcare home course that is being done by the Aurora South Metro SBDC. And that is launching April 7th. They are in need of support from an early childhood council because we know that participants are coming from all over the state. It could be any council that has a bilingual staff member who would be able to support them by attending the sessions and answering any ECC specific questions or resource questions that come up in the course of those business trainings. So if you have someone, a staff member that you think would be willing to serve in that role during a Spanish language course, please reach out to myself or to Angela and let us know so we can connect you with Aurora South Metro. We'll have other sessions coming up and adding them to that website, as well as sending out the information in your weekly newsletters. Next slide, Angela. Just really quickly wanted to highlight a few changes to the Early Childhood Council's role in this iteration of the training. We really felt it important for each council to have the opportunity to attend one of these training sessions. And we know that, it's up to each small business development center whether they want to participate with us, but we don't want that to restrict other councils from seeing the content and being able to support. Again, recognizing that because we're in a virtual world, we're getting participants in these classes from all over the state. So through the GAE this year, we are able to support every council sending one of their staff members to one of the trainings that's available. And right now, we expect at least 11 live trainings. They're happening virtually, but not on demand throughout the calendar year. And so we'll have more time, hopefully, to talk to you all about this next month, but just wanted to note that that is a key change we're making. It'll be reflected in the guidance document that we're updating and we'll be sending out, we're hoping within the next week. And so again, just hitting on what the GAE can support with regard to this project, each SBDC that is providing a training series is probably going to work with only one council in order to develop their curriculum. So that's why you see limited in the second section. The next 2 bullets, though, show that all councils are able to attend an SBDC childcare business training, as I just mentioned, and offer miscellaneous coaching as requested by the small business development centers. And we just are changing the name of this because last year, no one really needed to use the money for that one-on-one consultation support. So we're just opening it up a little bit more so that you can help support small business development centers. Maybe they want to meet with you on a quarterly basis to learn what your offerings are so that we're able to use the GAE to support that connection and that relationship building. Additional resources coming soon will be the invoice template and also the prior approval form for this year. And again, all of this information and more is going to be in the guidance document. Next slide.
Thanks, Kristen. So we're going to pop over to our CDA updates, and I know we'll go quickly since we're probably a little bit over time. We had a few more updates today than we were originally planning. But just wanted to let everybody know quickly that the CDA scholarship application is currently open. I'll drop a few links in the chat afterwards since I'm presenting. I don't want to pull up the chat at the moment, but wanted folks to know that this year we're transitioning to 3 application periods rather than an ongoing application because we didn't want to have all of those positions or those scholarships committed within the first 2 to 3 months of the calendar year. So having these application periods spread out throughout the year will ensure that we have funding to support scholarship applicants all the way through the end of the calendar year. So the application is currently open and it closes tomorrow, Friday the 26th, and then we will reopen it again in May and then again in August. And we're anticipating having even numbers of scholarship recipients in each of those periods, again, to make it fair. And we'll talk a little bit more about the wait list and things like that in the next meeting. We're trying to get this underway on this first round, and we'll have a few lessons learned to share next meeting. And then 2 other updates, just wanted to make sure everyone knows that the CDA observation waiver is still available since our public health guidances have not changed yet. So for any candidates throughout the state, whether or not they're receiving a scholarship, they can receive this waiver because they can't get their in-person verification visit to complete their CDA. So again, this waiver has been updated. I think the link broke back in December, so wanted folks to know that this is the updated link and that that's still available for 6 months. And for anyone who applied last year, I'm talking with licensing to make sure that we'll be able to make that extension. So if they started, say, in October, and now we're coming up on March, and that 6 months is going to be turning up, and the public health guidance has not changed. We're anticipating allowing an extension for that. So more to come on that as we're coming up on that first 6-month deadline from those first letters that were issued last year. And then again, the CDA amnesty program is a program for anyone that might have an expired CDA. Usually when that happens, they have to restart their entire CDA training process. And the Council for Professional Recognition, which is the national group that oversees the certification, is allowing people to act as a renewal even if their CDA was expired. So the amnesty program is open through June of this year. And again, I haven't seen any other updates from the council on anything that they're going to be extending. So treat these deadlines as firm, and just wanted to share that. So I will send those links in the chat in just a moment. And wanted to give you a few other updates on some PDG projects. I think I've spoken with most folks here about the PDG micro grants. Just to let you know that there won't be a 2021 cohort as of right now. We are steering everyone towards the state emerging and expanding grants because they have more allowable costs than we were able to fund with our federal grant, meaning that we can actually do construction. So that was the big gap that we had in our federal funding that the state grants will be able to take on. And then just wanted to note that if anyone has any questions about the final 2020 report template or your final invoice, let me know via email within the next couple of days, because we are trying to wrap up the 2020 project and we have to get our final invoices paid by the end of March to make sure that everything is closed for last year's PDG grant. So just wanted to let you know that that's why we have some urgency here with getting those final invoices in if you haven't yet. And I'll reach out directly to a few folks if I haven't seen one from you yet, but just wanted to flag that you can also reach out to me if you have questions. And last but not least, the Universal Design and Inclusion Project, we are going to be doing another cohort this year. It will be an expanded cohort. So if you remember last year, we were able to serve 25 programs through the Center for Inclusive Design and Engineering at CU Denver. And this year, we're going to be expanding that to 50 programs. And these programs will receive small group coaching and individual reflection sessions with SIDE, and they'll get an intro to design training, and then they'll get additional support opportunities with a kit to serve children of all learning abilities and some other bonus items depending on kind of their program's goals. And I'll let Kristen maybe fill in any gaps since that is her area of expertise, but just wanted you to know the status of a couple of these additional programs for this year.
I think you hit it well, Angela, and I know we're over time. So any questions, definitely about the program, reach out.
I'm going to pass the screen back to you, Monica.
Thank you. My computer froze. I couldn't unmute myself. We'll move along to our next presenter. We have Jennifer O'Brien from the Colorado Department of Education with a credential update. And hold on, Jennifer, and I will have you share your screen. Okay. And we can see your desktop.
All right, let's see. So what I want you to see is a PowerPoint presentation. So you maybe move.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay, super. So I'm here, again, my name is Jennifer O'Brien. I'm the Director of Early Childhood Workforce Development at CDE, and I'm here to give you an update on the credential situation that includes a temporary workaround that we've developed. So as many of you know, the credential interface, because of persistent issues with the early childhood professional credential scoring engine, had to be closed in November and then also in February. And because we know that that makes things really tough on people when that happens, it's kind of like a significant hardship on top of what's already going on for programs. We decided to come up with a Plan B workaround, okay? So in the very near term, we know that this workaround needs to accommodate expedites from licensing supervisors because a program is at risk of closure. It's this early childhood professional credential. And then also with the early childhood professional credential, professionals who are in a February or March rated program. And this workaround needs to kind of mimic the submission, the calculation, and the notification functionality in PDIS. In the midterm, that's if we need it. We're hoping that the vendor can resolve these issues and we can open up the credential interface. But if we need to think about this as a solution that's a little longer than just a short-term solution, it really does need to accommodate all our credentials, right? The early childhood professional credential, the trainer credential, the coaching credential, both viewing credential information and applying for these credentials. And then all the multiple reasons why individuals get these credentials. So stipends, qualifying for their position, QRS, et cetera, okay? So we have reworked our business process and put a few technology tools in place to support that revised business process. The big one that we're using is Smartsheet. I don't know if any of you are familiar. I know with folks with OEC are familiar with it. It's project planning software, but it's also bigger than that. I think it'll work really nice as a solution. We're using Google Sheets. We're trying to salvage the functioning parts of the PDIS. We're using an internal share drive and then some course functionality in the PDIS. And some of these tools we decided to utilize, we really made these decisions based on security, right? Because we're receiving pretty sensitive PII with these credential submissions. So I wanted to next show you guys the form that our professionals will see. So it's, can you guys see a Smartsheet form right now?
Yep.
Okay, good. So it's a simple form. We're hoping that the submission process is, and I think it will be, simpler than what it is now. It's really requiring these few fields: first name, last name, the PDIS ID, Because there may be some confusion about which email address is PDIS ID in the PDIS, here is a short video that we developed that tells our professionals how to get to their PDIS ID. Date of birth, current phone number, email address. So this will be the email address that people receive their credential information to. Information on program name. Let me move a couple things out of the way here. Reason why they're requesting their credential information. So I needed to qualify for my position through child care licensing. So if we get an expedite from licensing supervisors over at OEC, we would then send the professional the link to this sheet. And then QRS rated programs are also going to get the link to this sheet. Select credential type. Right now, people can only select the early childhood professional credential. And then information about what are you requesting today. It could be that they just need to know what credential information is in the system, or they need to submit documents. And when they select the submit documents, some file upload functionality comes up where they can drag and drop or browse, and then they push submit. Okay, so we're hoping that's easy for folks. Let me get back to where I was. Okay. So we're launching this on a limited basis on March 1st, right? And this is for our February rated programs and our March rated programs and those who need an expedited credential. And you'll see the timelines. We plotted this out with Clayton and Karen and Bowden. And you'll receive this slide deck after this presentation. I won't read everything to you, but that's how it's looking at this point. Both February and March rated programs will be able to access this on March 1st, which is Monday, so it's coming right up. And programs.
Hey, Jennifer, what about, there's a question about January programs.
Yeah, so January programs, we just delivered the data to the Clayton team. We had to double check about 100 credentials, but the Clayton team has that information, so.
The portal was left open through January 31st for the January sites.
All right, so on Monday morning, early Monday morning, February and March programs will receive a link to the Smartsheet form, a short video that kind of tells them about the form, and then a tip sheet. And you'll see on my slide here some of the things that we'll be letting professionals and programs know. One, that the PDIS ID is really important, that they put that information in, that emails will be coming from Smartsheet, that there's no need to upload items that have already been uploaded in the PDIS. We'll get those. To not share the Smartsheet form with other programs. With the Smartsheet form, there's a 10 document limit. And if they need to submit more than that, they need to submit another form. And then if possible, it would make things much easier on us to submit everything in one form. All right, what questions do you have for me?
If you have any questions for Jennifer, go ahead and type them in the chat box, please, or in the question box. All right, nothing yet.
Okay, So there's my information on the screen. And the PDIS help desk knows what I know, so you can contact either one of us, and we will make this temporary workaround as easy on people as possible.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. We're going to move on to our next presenters. We have an update from the team at Healthy Childcare Colorado. We have Taryn Schneider, Becky Edwards, and Robin Levy. And Taryn, are you going to be presenting, or who needs the screen?
If you can give access to Becky to share her screen, that'd be great, Monica.
Great. All right. And we can see your presentation.
Awesome. Can you see my face now too? Hi, everybody. Okay, Becky, you can go to the next slide. So we have about 25 minutes of content here for you all. We're going to take questions at the end, or feel free to pop them in the chat as we go through. We basically have a few things we want to share with all of you. One is just sort of some general updates from Healthy Childcare Colorado, and then we want to have a little bit of a deeper dive into some of our oral health work and our work with breastfeeding friendly childcare, and then the pyramid work. So lots of exciting things to share. Next slide. So most of you are probably aware of the early childhood huddles that we started doing since about the second week of the pandemic. We've been doing a couple different types of huddles. So early childhood huddles, which is mostly for programs and councils and CCR&Rs. And then the health huddles, which are more for childcare health consultants. So I just wanted to show you guys the maps here so you can see if you're, if your council is in any of the white counties that are showed on the map. Those are areas that we have not reached yet with participants of these huddles. So over the past almost year now, 11 months, we've done 37 huddles. That was actually through December. So there's been a few more now. Reaching more than 2,600 people in 42 different counties. And we've done these on various topics. So emergency childcare, cleaning and sanitation, how to take care of yourselves, how to support the social emotional well-being of the children that you're working with, vaccinations, all kinds of different topics. So just wanted to make sure that you all are aware of this and can take a look at some of this data. So if you happen to be in one of the white counties, get in touch with us and we can make sure you know about when these huddles are so you can share with your staff and your providers. Next slide. This is the map of the childcare health consultant huddles that we've been doing. So most of you probably know that Healthy Childcare is the state hub for childcare health consultation. And we have about 1,000 childcare health consultants in Colorado. 97% of them are nurses and 3% are physicians. And we've been supporting them throughout the pandemic as well, typically on more clinical type topics and how they might help their providers. And so this will show you we've reached about 50 counties in Colorado with huddle participants. So again, if you're in some of those white county areas, feel free to reach out to us so we can make sure you know when these events are happening. Next slide. We've also been administering the Keep the Lights On grant fund in partnership with all the folks you see listed on the slide here. So just wanted to share that, a brief update there. All the data that you see here is from the first 2 rounds of grants that we have made to providers across the state, and we are actively working on a 3rd round of grants that will be going out through Keep the Lights On. And the application for providers will be opening again. And so we will definitely make sure that all of you are aware when that application opens. Next slide. And then I just wanted to share our technical assistance numbers. I think it's pretty interesting to see the huge increase over last year. You can see in that in the last 2 quarters of last fiscal year, which was basically when the pandemic started. our technical assistance numbers went through the roof, and into this fiscal year, they're remaining higher than usual. And a lot of these questions are coming from providers, child care health consultants, and even some of you at councils and R&Rs. Next slide. And then just wanted to highlight some of the resources that are out there. So we created a health and safety toolkit for childcare programs that is sort of a companion to the state's resource guide for childcare providers. And then we are also currently working on a masking in childcare guidebook for childcare providers. And we hope to have that released within the next 2 weeks. So if you're not on the Healthy Childcare Colorado newsletter, I'd say go to our website and scroll to the bottom and sign up for that. We'll be sharing that resource widely when it's available. Next slide. And then our upcoming huddles. So Monica can send these slides out to everyone after the meeting, and all of the links are right in here. So our upcoming huddles are actually joint huddles. So they're for childcare health consultants and providers and councils and R&Rs and whoever else might be interested in learning about what's going on. So CDPHE presents at each of these huddles. They share data on outbreaks in childcare and any update that is really important that CDPHE wants us in early childhood to know. And it's also an opportunity to ask questions. There are oftentimes doctors from CDPHE who will join and answer, more clinical-based questions and questions around the vaccine and things like that. So the links are all in here. I would urge you guys to sign up for these huddles and share them with your providers, with your health consultants, with really anyone in your community that you think might be interested in having kind of that deeper focus on what's going on with COVID and early childhood programs. And then we're doing a Champions for Vaccine Equity webinar with CDPHE as well on March 9th. One is in English, one in Spanish. Again, share widely. And all of our huddles are cataloged in our ECE roundup on our website. So if you create an account on the Healthy Childcare website, you will be able to get in and see all of the recorded huddles from the past, along with any handouts and presentations for those. And then these are our upcoming trainings. They're on our website. They're all there. Feel free to take a look or, share those with providers. And I believe that's all I had, right, Becky? Next slide. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Becky. I didn't even really introduce myself to all of you because I'm assuming most of you know me, but I'm Taryn from Healthy Childcare, and now I'm going to pass this off to Becky from Healthy Childcare.
Thanks, Taryn.
Yep.
I just have a couple updates I wanted to share. The first one we wanted to talk about our oral health, because with the pandemic, programs are not brushing teeth right now. So we've been doing a lot of work trying to get messages out and get some information out to help programs with oral health supports. And the first thing I wanted to do today was just say thank you to everyone who promoted our upcoming March 13th Healthy Smile Summit. I have never had this many people enroll in the virtual summit before, so we have 59 people signed up. I don't think I've even had that many at an in-person one, so thank you so much for promoting that, because this has been a really great way to get education and materials and information out to programs so that they can support oral health right now. Another thing we are doing is we are recruiting champions to work with programs to go out and help them with these same supports, help them write policies, help them implement our curriculum that we use, which is Cavity Free Kids, which is a really fun curriculum that helps not only classrooms, but also families with oral health information and supports. We also have a version for home visitors that we've been sharing out. So we are working to recruit these champions and hopefully get them on board. And if you know of anybody that might be interested in supporting a program or supporting their own program, please have them contact me. We do have a champion orientation call next week, and we'll have another one after the summit. And we would love to have champions going out and supporting programs. And this on the screen here, these are just some of the benefits. Every program that participates receives all of these tools along with toothbrushes, toothpaste, everything they need to be successful. And then hopefully when we get to the point that they can brush teeth again, they'll be able to start that up immediately after becoming after participating. And we are also, just wanted to throw this out here, we offer our Tooth Healthy text that we have every month. And we just encourage people to sign up for this because we send them links to lesson plans, to information for parents, anything that they need to help support oral health in programs. The other big program that I work with is the Breastfeeding Friendly Childcare Recognition. We have developed a statewide program. So this started back in 2017 with the development of the breastfeeding friendly childcare toolkits and PDIS training modules that the state put together. And then we had an advisory committee made up of many county representatives, state representatives, Healthy Childcare Colorado, and other organizations. And we have been meeting since 2019 and put together this breastfeeding friendly childcare recognition program that is statewide. And in the fall, we were able to pilot the recognition program. It was a small pilot, but it went really well. And we have since launched a statewide recognition program to recognize those centers that have breastfeeding friendly practices in place. So the goals of this is, of course, to increase knowledge and implementation of breastfeeding friendly policies, practices, and recognize those programs that are following those. We have advisors that go out and work with the different centers and family childcare programs, and they help them by doing an assessment with the program, developing an action plan, providing them with supplies, equipment, teaching materials, everything they need to be successful, and helping them write policies that make them breastfeeding friendly. And we want to embed this in, hopefully, in Colorado Shines. We know that the action plan and the quality improvement plan or program assessment, we know can be used as part of that, but we are hoping to continue to grow that and have this be more of a health indicator for programs. So we are also helping with educational materials for parents and finding different ways to build that quality within programs. What we did for the recognition is we aligned this with Colorado Shines because we felt it's important to be aligned with everybody so programs know how to upload evidence. So we tried to make this very similar to that in that they have an evidence guide, and then we wrote down specifically what that evidence looks like so they can use the guide and check off as they go, and then they submit to us photographs or copies of policies so we can verify that they are either breastfeeding friendly or breastfeeding advocate. So they also use this tool to inform an action plan or quality improvement plan to ensure that they're doing everything possible to become breastfeeding friendly. And we have the links here on the slides, so I'm not going to go into any more detail on this, but as we're going to share the slides with you, you'll be able to click on the links and you can see all of the different tools that programs are using to become breastfeeding friendly. And then this is just a copy of the certificate that we send out to programs. What we have done is if a program is breastfeeding friendly through their county agency, they will also receive the statewide recognition. So we're working together with Always Breastfeeding Colorado to find a way to make this an easier process and align everything together. We are recruiting advisors. So right now, through Always Breastfeeding Colorado, they are supporting with helping with the training of advisors and getting them out into field and lining them up with programs. And basically, an advisor has 5 points of contact with the programs, and we developed a way to do that virtually so they wouldn't have to go into programs. Help them identify and set up their breastfeeding friendly space, help them with writing policies, help them complete the evidence document, and then ensure that they are aware of any resources that are available to them so they can provide those to parents. Each advisor completes the PDIS module and a co-train. There's a 3-part training that they complete on the advisor role and expectations. And we continue to look for breastfeeding advisors. So if anyone has an interest in that, you can go to our website and we have more information and a program description for you so you can look at that. Programs that work with an advisor receive supplies like you see here on the screen. So they receive all of these supplies to help set up their breastfeeding space and to have supplies for the children and normalize that in their program. So we've been really proud to be able to offer this to programs. It's been really well received. Programs are excited about getting these supplies and getting their spaces set up. So it's been a really, really fun project that we've been doing. So here again, we're going to share the slides so you can look at the position description and see if you would like to apply to be an advisor. You can also contact me at any time and I'll be happy to go over the role with you. You get ongoing support from us. Again, you have the trainings, and we do pay a small stipend, $100 for completion of the work and getting the program through the process. So if there's any questions, I'll look at the chat here. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Robin so we can keep going with time.
Hello, everybody. My name is Robin Levy, and I am new to the team at Healthy Childcare Colorado, and I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you. Next slide back. So I am going to talk a little bit about Pyramid Colorado in its new home at Healthy Childcare Colorado. I think that most of you know what the pyramid model is. It is actually a framework of evidence-based practices that help us to support healthy social emotional development for young children. Typically, almost everybody that's associated with young children can use these evidence-based practices, whether you're a family member, certainly teachers and care providers, coaches and trainers, early interventionists use this, special educators use this, coaches and trainers along with a variety of other professionals, for example, early childhood mental health consultation. So it's a very widely used practice across many domains and many roles. Next slide. As most of you know, the pyramid model is based on the tiers of the public health model. So you see promotion, prevention, and intervention. But based on underneath all of those is the effective workforce. This was the last part of the pyramid that was added, and it became very clear after doing pyramid work for a few years that without the systems and the policies that the folks needed who were doing the work, it was much harder to do the work. So that effective workforce is really, really important. And it's something that we'll be looking at a lot as we work to align with what's going on in Colorado currently. The promotion part of the pyramid is for all children. Those effective environments and those healthy relationships really support all children in their social emotional development. Moving up to the prevention level, these are targeted skills for children that we know may be more likely to have challenging behavior. As we look at what's going on with COVID and in and out of school, there's probably going to be a lot more children moving into this area of the pyramid than we've potentially seen before. The early intervention or intervention part of the pyramid, the red zone, is about 3 to 5% of the children who, after getting promotional and prevention support strategies, still need additional support in order to really learn and use the new skills that they gain across settings. So again, just a little bit of an outline of the pyramid model and the various tiers. Next slide. The purpose of Pyramid Colorado in its new home at Healthy Childcare is to promote the social emotional development and inclusion of all children, ages birth through 5, by supporting and expanding the evidence-based pyramid approaches in Colorado. We are offering professional development that will look like teapots and tippy toes and PTRYC, and I know I'm throwing out a lot of alphabet letters to you, but many of you who are familiar with pyramid work know those letters. We're also going to be really working hard to show out work that we feel is complementary social emotional work that might not necessarily be coming right from the pyramid entities that we have nationally. We'll be refreshing and looking at certification and recertification. We're also going to be developing at least a community of practice, if not a few, to really look at what are some of the implementation issues, challenges, and celebrations in the various levels of implementation. Our website is going to hold an online hub similar to the Nurse Consultants online hub at Healthy Childcare Colorado. So folks who get into that hub part of the website are going to have the opportunity to get a variety of additional supports and tools to help them do their work. We're also going to add a function that's going to allow people to go into the website and locate a pyramid trainer or a pyramid coach as needed for them in the work that they're doing. Additionally, we're definitely going to be supporting advocacy and state and national leadership efforts to continue to align and integrate pyramid work into our state systems. Next slide. So some of our core functions are as written here. And before I get into them, I just want to note that the Pyramid Colorado Foundations and Action Plan link at the bottom of this page, if you click on that once you get this PowerPoint, you'll be able to go more deeply into these areas and find some additional information that won't be necessarily spoken here today. But one of our core functions is to serve as that hub for Pyramid Colorado network, and that's going to include supporting the growth of the network and really, again, that alignment with what is needed and what are people wanting to support their implementation efforts. We're going to also really support the quality improvement efforts by having high quality ongoing implementation and supporting programs and communities in their implementation efforts. We'll be developing evaluation plan that's aligned with the results that we're wanting so that we can constantly be seeing if we're going in the direction that we want to go. And if not, we can adjust and be nimble to really look at what we want to do and make sure that we're going specifically for those outcomes. Additionally, we're going to advocate for best practices and sound policies by convening leadership teams, working with state policy systems, and really deepening the implementation piece of it. We're hoping to continue to invite a wide variety of people on what is now our transition team and will eventually move into a state level leadership team.
Robin, you froze. I'll give her a few more seconds. Karen, do you know if Robin was almost done with her presentation?
Yeah, I can pick it up from here, Becky, if you want to go to the next slide. So there's also additional information about the process that we've gone through since last May in creating the transition plan around Pyramid and moving from UCD to Healthy Childcare. So these are important links that you might want to share, especially the frequently asked questions and the interim guidance. So if you have people in your community or coaches or trainers who have questions, send them to us. but these two links in the middle here are going to be the most important ones for them that will help answer some questions that they have. Namely, I would say one of the biggest questions, I don't know, Becky, if you have something else to add to this too, is really, can I keep doing Pyramid Plus trainings and that kind of thing? And the answer is yes, you can. For now, we have not come out with a transition plan for shifting from the Pyramid Plus approach training to the National Pyramid Module trainings, which we will not be doing until sometime this year when the national modules come out with their update. So these are going to be really important links for you to share with folks. And if you want more sort of detailed information, that first link, the Unifying for Greater Impact webinar, was really our sort of soft launch into Pyramid Colorado. And so we talk a lot about the process that we went through in the 6 months prior to that, that if you're interested in hearing more about, you can certainly take a look at that webinar. Next slide. Robin, I see you're back. Can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Awesome.
Go team. Thank you, Taryn.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll turn this back over to you, Robin.
Thank you. This next slide is our 2021 leadership structure for Pyramid Colorado. As you can see, we sort of used the pyramid format to really show what we're working to do. The very bottom level here is the work groups. This is our effort to really have that strong workforce. You can see that we'll be having 4 work groups going on starting actually in the next few weeks. The first 2 that we are going to kick off is the program content work group and then the data and evaluation work group. And we'll move into quality, workforce systems and integration, alignment, and opportunity development. At the same time that these work groups are going on, the 2 mountains on the edge, those are our transition team mountains. And this work is going to be going on as well. Again, the transition team has members all the way from the levels of implementation all the way up through funders to really make sure that we have a very clean idea of where we need to do our work to create the kind of system that we want that's going to align and be really efficient for those folks using it. So we'll focus on practice and implementation as well as really looking at the systems and policies pieces in that transition team. We're also going to be gathering information and support, advice, and lots of anecdotal stories from implementation communities, implementation programs, and demonstration sites. They're the folks who have been doing this work all the way along, and we want to hear from them the things that have worked well for them and the things that they'd like to see change as we create some plans to do the certification refresh and all of the other work that we'll be doing. Certainly, all final decision making will be at Pyramid Colorado and Healthy Childcare Colorado with the guidance and recommendations of all of these groups as we gather data moving forward. Next slide. So what do you still have to expect to come up in this year? A lot. We're going to be very busy. We are going to be doing a certification refresh and hope to open our pilot certification for Pyramid Colorado in the summertime with the cadre starting in October. And we're really looking at making sure that it's well aligned with PDIS, excuse me. In addition, we're going to really be doing this training transition. The Pyramid Plus approach is going to be sunset. We don't have an exact date when that's going to happen. We are going to be embracing the pyramid modules, which new ones are about to come out sometime, hopefully by the end of this year. And it's really just timing all of that out to make it as efficient and easy as possible for people so that they don't transition from the approach to one set of modules to another set of modules potentially. So we're really looking at our national partners and how to do that. Additionally, in the decision to embrace those national modules, We also had a lot of conversation about not wanting to lose the history and all of the wonderful work that we've done in Colorado with Pyramid over time. So we've determined that we're going to make a pre and a post module. We call them bookends, if you will, so that folks can understand before going into the Pyramid modules what our context in Colorado is, and then after the modules, really get an idea on what can they do now that they have this information moving forward, all of the different opportunities to implement and or learn more. We talked a lot about the tools and resources that are going to be online on the hub as well. And we are going to be doing our own Pyramid huddles. We've done 2, we'll be continuing them on a monthly basis, as well as having our Pyramid e-updates. And we'll continue to post and share what the transition team and the work groups are doing. And then finally, I believe that you all will be talking with Heather Matthews at the next ACLA meeting, and we're really diving into an asset mapping and needs assessment project in making the decisions that we're going to be making moving Pyramid forward. We really want to have a very clean, very clear idea of all of the places that Pyramid is currently happening in the state of Colorado. And I don't think we have a good idea of that because traditionally we collected data around one flavor of Pyramid, which was the Pyramid Plus approach. And we really want to see where Pyramid module work is going, Pyramid e-module work is going, as well as who's still doing the approach so that we can help them to make that transition moving forward. So you'll hear more about our data gathering very, very soon. Next slide. And that's it. Questions?
For the sake of time, we are going to have to move on. But if you do have questions, you can go ahead and email Taryn, Becky, or Robin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Sarah Roberts that's going to give us a brief update on coaching opportunities. And Sarah, do you have any slides for us?
You know what? Just don't worry about it. I'll just talk.
Okay.
It's fine. So I just wanted to first thank all of the councils and everyone who has been so welcoming and willing to meet and talk with myself and the regional coaches in the past month. It's just great to see all the ways that we're able to learn from you. Just wanted to, plug again really quickly. Our community of practice is starting on March 2nd, and it's something that you can sign up in PDIS. And I'll share my slides with Monica to share with everyone else after this with the link. But we have a really, great group of people that have signed up so far, and we just want to make sure that we're capturing as many coaches as we can for this first community of practice. And then on Monday, March 1st will be the last day to sign up for our competencies work group. So again, if anyone would like to join that group, please shoot me an email and I'll add you to the list so that on Tuesday I can send out next steps for everyone. And that was all I got.
Thanks so much, Sarah. All right, so we had quite a few questions from councils about what happened to the WIG and what happened to CSTAT and was that still going on? So what we decided to do was invite our CSTAT analyst for the OEC, and we have Stephanie here today. Hello, Stephanie. Go ahead, I will send you the screen.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Trying to send it over. Did you receive a notification?
Let's see. No.
All right, hold on.
Sorry about that. This is a new system for me.
Okay, let's see.
Ah, there we go.
Did you receive? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Great. Well, thank you so much for giving me some time today to walk through CSTAT and what it looks like now for the Office of Early Childhood and for CDHS more broadly. So I thought I would start by just giving an overview of what CSTAT is, because I think there's a lot of confusion about what the process entails and what it's intended to do. So I pulled this right from our website. I'm happy to send links to the website later. But CSTAT is a performance-based analysis strategy that allows every program within CDHS to better focus on and improve performance outcomes. So our goal with the CSTAT process is to give leadership and people on the ground the information they need to succeed, to move forward with the goals that they've set. So by identifying these areas of focus, CDHS can determine what's working and what needs improvement. By measuring the impact of these day-to-day efforts, we're able to make more informed, collaborative decisions to align our efforts and resources to affect positive change. So in my own words, I would describe CSTAT as the process led by the Performance Management Division, which is the division that I actually am seated on. So I'm an analyst within the Performance Management team, and I serve the Office of Early Childhood. So our goal of the process is to help offices use data to track their progress toward goals, to help identify areas of opportunity, to address root causes of ongoing issues, and those types of things. And this process ultimately culminates in a bi-monthly meeting with Executive Director Michelle Barnes and the senior executive team of CDHS. And this offers them an opportunity to review data, and it gives leadership an opportunity to elicit support from the senior executive team and Michelle Barnes, and to identify next steps. So what additional information might be useful? How can leadership help to remove barriers? What needs to happen in order for us to make progress toward these goals? So we track all sorts of information, but the primary information we track as part of CSTAT are the wildly important goals, or you may have heard WIGs. And these are reported on the governor's dashboard. So you can see the link there. I'll click on it. I'll show you what this looks like. So at the governor's dashboard, they've organized everything by the bold 4, which are the governor's 4 largest priorities. All of the priorities that are relevant to the Office of Early Childhood can be found in education and workforce. So when you click on this link, it should pull up all of the different metrics that are being monitored toward those wildly important goals. So these wildly important goals kind of fall into 2 categories. We have cabinet member WIGs, which are those that are put forth by different departments or offices and are elevated to the governor's office. And there are also cabinet working group WIGs. So there is right now an education and an early education workforce task group or working group. And they've developed some wildly important goals that OEC is now tracking. So in addition to those goals, as part of CSTAT, we track lead measures. So these are just metrics that tell us about the strategies that support these goals and change often enough that we can kind of tell whether we're moving in the right direction. We also include anything else that is identified as a priority for an office or department strategic plan. So I know the Office of Early Childhood is going through their strategic planning process right now. I would imagine once that's complete, there should be some priorities that are aligned with these WIGs, but might be a little adjacent. So there might be things that we add to CSTAT to help track progress toward those strategic plan goals. One example of something we did track for CSTAT that I think more of you are familiar with is QRIS level improvement. So Monica explained to me, because I'm new in this role, this is my 2nd month here. Previously, one thing that was tracked in CSTAT was QRIS levels, with the goal being trying to improve levels for different providers. The current major priorities of the Office of Early Education are to maintain and increase childcare capacity. So in the wake of COVID-19, there have been estimates or predicted estimates that up to 20 to 25% of childcare providers could close permanently. So we've been monitoring really closely how many licensed slots are available throughout Colorado. Another priority is to keep child care providers open. So not only maintain the number of seats that the community needs, but to make sure we have enough providers, especially in those areas where we might not otherwise. So I wanted to walk you through some of the measures that we are currently tracking, and I'm not going to go into details. I don't think you all need to get in the weeds with this, but I kind of wanted to give you a sense of the things that we're prioritizing right now. So one of the Education and Workforce Working Group WIGs just monitors how many child care providers are still operating. So right now, I believe it's about 98% of child care providers, like facilities, are still operating even with COVID. So I think that's great. We're still continuing to meet our goal. Another goal is to retain 80% of the total licensed child care capacity. So to maintain licensed seats. Again, I think we're maintaining about 97% of total capacity that would have been in March. So these are the major measures we're keeping track of, but we're also keeping track of the strategies that support those primary metrics. So one strategy has been to provide sustainability grants to providers. And so we're keeping track of how many of those providers that receive this grant are still operating. There were also emergency child care funds provided to some providers, and we're tracking how many of those continue to operate. Another effort that I'm sure Kristen and Angela could speak to a little better, but they've mentioned a little bit already, are these business training and consultation sessions. So as part of CSTAT, we're keeping track, or we intend to keep track of how many providers that had somebody participate in these small business development centers operate 90 days after training is complete. So this slide is an example of sort of an adjacent update that we think is really important to share with the senior executive team and other leadership. This just gives us some insight into the efficacy of that training. So the small business development trainings actually had a really positive outcome. So people reported feeling more knowledgeable after attending the training than they did before the training, which is great news. So Child Development Associate Scholarships have been going out since last year, and we've been tracking how many people have been completing the training, the CDA training, and how many people have received the scholarships. So this just gives us an idea of when we're trying to maintain the workforce, right, as part of this Education and Workforce Working Group, we want to know if this particular strategy is working toward that end. Another strategy toward workforce retention is to increase the early childhood mental health workforce. So we have a designated number of slots that we can fill with specialists, and we're keeping track of how many slots are available, how many are contracted, and how many are filled. And through this kind of method, we've noted that there has been historically a gap between filled and contracted. So it's actually been difficult to find qualified individuals to fill these already contracted positions. So it points to a bigger systemic problem. And then another piece of information we have been tracking is the number of providers with child care assistance programs, so CCAP fiscal agreements. We're slowly working toward a goal of 47%, and I think it's made really great progress. So everyone's been really excited about that. So that's what CSTAT looks like now, or our CSTAT meetings. What CSTAT will look like in the future is up in the air. It's going to change a little bit. So my team, so the Performance Management Division, is working with SET to develop a CSTAT process that is focused more on problem solving than sharing out. So rather than saying, this is the great data we have, look at it, enjoy it, great, we're working on understanding where we can improve. So for example, with this CCAP fiscal agreement, there's still a gap. We're not quite to 47%. So maybe in a future CSTAT meeting under this new structure, we would be discussing how we can address that extra 3%. But details of this will, I think, should be ironed out by the new fiscal year. So I'll make sure you all are informed of that as it changes. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. I can imagine I gave you a lot of information and you have a lot of questions, so feel free to reach out with any questions you have. Or if you just want to learn more about CSTAT, I'm happy to answer those questions for you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and I will be sending out this slide deck as a follow-up. Our next presenter today is Sybil Holmes, and she is in charge of the pre-licensing curriculum, and she'll be providing an update on that. Hello, Sybil.
Hi, I don't have any slides today, but thanks for having me. I am Sybil Holmes. I'm with the Learning and Instructional Design team at the OEC, and I was hired to come in and look at the pre-licensing curriculum and do a revamp. So we've talked to stakeholders all across the state to better understand what this audience needs. It should come as a surprise to no one that navigating the state processes can be really challenging for providers. It's a pretty complex system, and that's not even considering the fact that a lot of our providers don't have English as their first language. So it's our theory that we have a lot of potential providers in Colorado who are kind of getting bumped off that path to being licensed because of the process, and lots of other states across the country have solved for this by offering a 1-hour orientation that takes place before someone begins their application. Here at the state level, we see a lot of applications that have to be returned for various reasons, just because it's complex. People don't understand the questions. There's problems understanding order of operations, so people don't know that they need to wait to get their fingerprints done until after they get their license number, etc. So it kind of starts their journey off really in a difficult way, in a challenging way. And so what we're hoping is that a 1-hour orientation is going to help smooth some of those roads for them. The plan right now is to offer it once a week from the Office of Early Childhood, delivered by a licensing lead. Right now, each time that I've shared out with stakeholders, there have been a lot of questions and a lot of concerns across the state. So we wanted to be really transparent off the bat and say, this is the plan. This is what we're thinking might solve a lot of these problems and get people started on the right path with the support that they need. And we also want to get them started off on the right path with licensing, understanding that licensing is there to give them technical assistance and to help them really collaborate as they start this journey. And we don't want the first time that they meet their licensing specialist to be at that really stressful initial inspection. So we're going to be piloting that coming up soon. And I wanted to get that out there to the community. And if you have any questions, go ahead and send me a personal email, and I can fill you in on the rest of it, and we can address some of those concerns that are popping up. So that's all I have for today.
Thanks so much, Sybil. And as Sybil mentioned, if you do have questions, go ahead and email them to her. Her contact information is on the slides. Next, we will be discussing the Emerging and Expanding Childcare Grant, and we have Karen and Bowden and Debbie Gray. Do you guys have slides?
No, we don't have slides, but you can give me the screen because I'm going to do a quick demo for folks. And I'm not going to do it just yet. So can I just hold this share your screen thing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry, this technology. Earlier, I had a little pair of glasses on that would not go away, which made me laugh because, you know, the whole cat thing that was on the internet, that's how I was feeling this afternoon. But anyway, we, Debbie and I are here this afternoon just to kind of pick up where we left off with the Emerging and Expanding Childcare Grant, let you guys know what's happening currently. If and let you also know what's happening on the licensing side. And we are pretty darn excited. We have 34 applications sitting in the queue right now. One was approved. So thank you to Angie and the Pueblo group and the licensing team that worked with that to get our first application approved. So we're very excited about that. And we also just wanted to let you guys know, we came across one thing that I didn't get to tell you the last time we were all together was we were kind of looking at, you know, when the application opened, which was around the 5th of February, that would be like when people could start applying, and that would be from that point forward when the effective date is. But we had a few folks reach out to us and say, you know, I have a program who opened like 2 weeks ago. We had one that opened like February 1st. And so they were really curious about whether or not they would be eligible. So we were able to go back and tie the legislation dates, which were actually dated January 4th, to that eligibility time period. So I'm happy to share that any program that opened January 2nd or later will be eligible for that grant. So that's pretty exciting. We were happy to get that news, because I know a couple of you guys had even reached out and said, gosh, I have a brand new program, do they qualify? So so basically we went back to the effective date when the legislation took effective, and then that's where we were able to start that process, or start the clock, if you will. So that's one announcement we wanted to make. Go ahead, Debbie.
I was just going to say, I think there were 3 initial programs that were similar to that. So we are looking at those applications, and we have asked our licensing specialists to reach out to the early childhood community councils to make sure that they also agree that the budget looks great and everything looks complete, so that we can mark them eligible.
Yeah. Very good. So what we wanted to cover with you guys today, as you'll recall, I came on one of the Hot Topics calls and kind of walked through the process of you know, what the councils can look at and see. And then also what we wanted to share with you today is, you know, what the licensing specialist role is, because we've been kind of fine tuning that over the last few weeks. And Debbie and I and a few others met with the licensing team yesterday, and we identified their work under this grant. And so we thought we would share that with you. And then I am also going to just demo for you where you can, one more time, because some people didn't get to see it, where you can actually see those applications and the statuses that they're in, and how to read, you know, kind of the notes in there, so that you know what's happening in the data system. But Debbie, you want to talk about the role?
Yes, thank you. So one thing I wanted to point out, in some of the final guidance that was sent out, there was a note in there that said that licensing will do a full inspection before the grant could be approved. And Karen and I talked about that quite a bit. And we want to try to get these grants approved as quickly as possible. And we also are trying not to do a full inspection because a lot of the items that would be on a full report of inspection or violations would be things that the program could use those grant monies for in order to correct and have in place. So what we decided to do, instead of having a full inspection right away, would be just to create a consultation guide for our staff to use to determine if a space is licensable. So instead of doing that full inspection, they can do a virtual inspection or a visit, really, with the provider to go over some criteria just to make sure we can issue a license eventually. So like for an example, an infant room. We all know, or most of us know, that an infant room has to be on grade level. So that would be something that we would ask the provider for child care center, you know, if they're seeking to add an infant room, where that classroom is. It would also be questions about, you know, your playground and your outdoor learning environment, and if you have something like set up. So it's just kind of the basic criteria, regulations that are needed to license a space. So we can approve the grant, obviously, without having to approve the license. And we hope that that will speed up this process. I'm going to pause for a minute and see if anyone has any questions on that. For family childcare home providers, we also created a consultation guide. And there are a couple of other criteria that I thought we would talk about to be eligible for this grant. As we all know, we have a shortage of infant and toddler slots across the state. So family childcare home providers can also be eligible for this grant even if they're not increasing their overall capacity, but if they're increasing their infant toddler slot. So if they change from a regular, what we call the 6+2 license, to an infant toddler license or a 3-under-2 license, they could also be eligible for this grant.
No questions yet.
Okay. So what we have asked our specialists to do is to go in and look at every application that we have. And then Karen is going to show you, sorry, got a little feedback. Karen is going to show you in the demo where to look for these licensing notes. So we've asked our specialists to go in and look at the applications they have and to try to determine eligibility. We asked them that before they change the status to eligible, that they reach out to the early childhood councils to make sure, I don't know if you guys can still see me, my screen is.
You left me.
You left, Debbie, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
Hold on, there we go.
There you are.
I don't know what happened there, but sorry. We have asked our specialists to be in constant communication with the early childhood councils before we approve any grant.
Yep. So do you want me to pop into Salesforce at this point?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. And we can show them where they can go to look to see if the licensing specialist has reviewed the grant and what documentation have been entered in the licensing notes.
You guys are going to have to tell me which screen is showing.
So right now it looks like we could see your home screen.
Okay, perfect. So I wanted to be sure that you guys knew that you can access these grants through the grant distribution status. There was a document that we sent out to all the early childhood councils right after the Hot Topics call, and we are happy to send that out again. Just kind of walks you through how to get into this this section of the Salesforce. But as soon as you go into the grant status, it defaults here to like recently viewed. So you're going to want to pick the view that you want. You could pick My E&E grants and it will just show you the grants for your council. But because of my access here, I've got to go into all E&E grants to see these. And as you can see, we have a number of grants waiting for approval, which is pretty darn exciting. And you can see here we had a couple that were ineligible, and we did reach out to the council before we marked them ineligible and kind of let them know what was going on there. And then we have a test account here, but we also had the Bright Beginnings Pueblo site that was marked eligible, and we worked real close with Angie during that process, and she worked real close with the site and the licensing specialist, and it was a real ideal situation, frankly. So we thank you, Angie, for working with us on that. But here's where you see these grants, and then you're going to access the information under this tab, the grant distribution status name. If you go in under the account, you're just going to see the account information that you would normally see in Salesforce. So you want to click into the grant application. So I'll just pick one. Let's see that I know we were working on here. And here's one where It's been marked under review. So this information, you guys can see the details here. All of this is the grant questions right in here. This is all the information that the provider themselves has populated. So you'll have information there. You also can find information under this related tab, and those are just attachments that they've put in to the files for review. But what we really want to call out here is this area right here, the application status, and then the licensing notes. This is the notes section of which anything that goes into the process of the licensing specialist working on this application, or any of us working on it, we're going to populate notes in here. So as soon as the licensing specialist gets this application, they get an email saying, hey, there's an application for you to review. They will come in within a few days. I think the deadline is like 5 days, but yeah. So they're aware that these are coming in now. So they would go in and they would mark this as being under review. So I'll just show you what that looks like. They can, it always comes in as received. We're asking them to go in once they review it and start to work on this application to mark it under review, and then populate notes in here. So this was one that Angie's also working on in Pueblo, and she sent me an email saying, hey, Karen, by the way, I've been working with this program and we've already looked at their budget, and I just want you guys to know that as you're reviewing the application. So I was able to populate this note in here so that the licensing specialist knows that the ECC is working on this. So let me go and show you another one. Again, I'll go over to all. And then let's see if we can find one there. Oh shoot, I can't remember the one that Katie was looking at. I'll just pop this one up and see what's happening with this one. Okay, so there's some notes in here too. So this one's under review. This is a licensed room that the facility has used as a music movement room and would like to expand to another preschool room. The room is licensed for 8 children. So this is a note that the licensing specialist put in. So she's working with them on this. She'll need to find out if they have completed the paperwork to send in to ask for them, you know, the additional slots to be added, because that is one step that the program needs to do. Here's one where they're asking for, you know, $6,000 is the total budget. They've put in a description, and, you know, so the information's in there. But here's again, the status portion and the licensing's notes, because I know our QRS coordinators are getting quite a few questions on, like, how long does it take to approve an application? And that is really, really subjective. We can't just say, oh, it's a week or it's, you know, a month, because it all depends on what we have to track down from what they submitted. So if they're actually increasing their capacity, then we need to make sure that we have the application on file, that they've submitted an application for that capacity increase. So there's just those checks and balances that have to be figured out, so that we can go through that portion. Once they figure out, let's say that this one is, you know, good to go, and they go through all the process and they talk to you and you said, yeah, it's good to go, they would mark this as eligible.
So for example, Karen, this one, if we look at the notes, it says the room is currently licensed for 8 children. So this would be one where we would do that consultation guide. We need to get the measurements for that classroom, and we may need to go out there and remeasure it. If it's already licensed for 8, we hope that we can increase the capacity, you know, for more children so that they're eligible. But we need more information on this one. The other thing I just wanted to say really quickly is what the programs need to do is do a change of capacity, or that's the document that you have to send to our office in order to increase capacity, or a change of license type if they're like a family child care home provider is going to be changing from a regular to an experience or to a large, or it's the original application. So we do have to, just like Karen said, we have to make sure that's in place first. before we can proceed as well. So that could delay things. I did check with our office to see kind of how quickly we are able to process applications. And we got a little bit of information I wanted to share with you. Right now, I asked our support staff supervisor kind of how far out it takes to get some of these applications processed. So they are processing for non-home applications. So for centers, they are currently at February 3rd. So they're about 3 weeks behind in processing those applications. And for homes, they're at the week of January 27th. So that is another piece that we have to consider in this, is that unfortunately our support staff is a little bit delayed in processing applications. And if that's the case, we really can't prioritize one application over another, because if you think about it, all new applications could be eligible for this grant. So they are trying to process these as quickly as possible, and they know that we want to turn over this money just as fast as we can.
Cool. So I just want to kind of open it up for questions, or anybody who wants to, either ask a question or talk about, what they might be experiencing in their communities, just so there's time for us to, address any outstanding things that are happening with the grant. So again, we're pretty excited about the interest.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a request. It says, could we add the county to the report for grant distribution status? And I think that'll be a quick fix.
I do believe we could do that. And I might even be able to figure out how to do that. So yeah.
And then another question is, we had a question about whether expanding overall hours or days of operating qualifies as expansion.
No, so expansion means that they have to be expanding their actual capacity. So if the room is licensed for 12, say, it would mean that the room would have to expand that capacity. So they might be serving an AM and PM. They might actually be serving 24 kids in that room, but it's based on the actual licensed capacity of the facility. In order, that has to increase in order for them to be eligible, with one exception. If they were to change a room to an infant or a toddler room, then that would be considered eligible because of the dire need for infant and toddler slots across our state. So that actually might decrease their capacity, but that would be the only exception that is considered in that regard.
Sorry, Karen, I lost my camera again.
I know. You keep fading it. It's making me laugh.
Yeah, just like that scenario I was talking about with infant and toddler slots for family child care home providers, same thing for centers. They could be actually decreasing their overall capacity, but if they're increasing their infant and toddler slots, they are definitely eligible.
So, and some of you may not have some of these grants yet, and might just have questions when one pops up. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask us questions. We're more than happy to help, help you through any of that. And we also are having to report on this on a weekly basis up to the governor's office, just how many applications we have, how many have been approved, how many are under review. So we're keeping a real close watch on this, and we've been getting about 3 to 4 a day, which is, pretty impressive. And so now we got to catch up, but we are real excited about the interest in this. So.
And no more questions for now.
Oh, you guys are rock stars.
Yeah, again, we thank you, and I can't stress enough, if you have questions, please reach out to your licensing specialist, and if you don't know who that licensing specialist is, you can call Karen and I. We can also share, I'm sure we've shared documents, Karen, but we have lots of documents we can share on what licensing specialist has what zip code and what their cell phone number is. Have you shared that, Karen? Is that something that would be helpful?
We do have a document, that a Google document that we've shared out in the past, but we can do that again.
Okay, that'd be great.
It's actually been recently updated too, so it might be a good time to reshare it.
And we shared with our specialists the contact information for all the early childhood councils, so they know who they need to contact as well.
It's also listed in Salesforce, so I mean,
True.
you know, it depends on how easy it is. You know, if you're in Salesforce, you're going to easily find, you know, contact. But if you're also on the application, it lists both the licensing contact and the contact for, like, just right in the details. It'll tell you right here that Barbara is the licensing person. It also tells you that, you know, this is a Morgan County ECC. So the information is pretty accessible, but we also have some other, you know, ways to figure that out if you're struggling
All
with
of
that.
our specialists are available by cell phone, especially if they were once in our office. Best way to get a hold of them is by cell phone, so we can definitely make sure you have that information.
Very good. Well, cool. So we'll keep this as a topic for future, just to see if, you know, if folks have questions, or they, or we can also just report out some of the statistics on, you know, the numbers of applications that have been approved and those sorts of things. You will start to see in the EC Connect system the funding stream, the total funding, and then, you know, you'll see that tick down as we approve the application. So with the popularity of this, we will look closely at boundaries and things of that sort, since the legislation does ask us to prioritize rural areas and those in desert areas. But right now we have plenty of funds, and we're excited to start to award those. So stay tuned.
And for the business rules or guidance for documents, we sent all of that out, correct, Karen?
Yes.
Okay.
If people are still needing those, we're happy to attach them again to this when we send out the webinar, this webinar recording, so we can include those. And the MOU is also loaded now in EC Connect, so everything's firing and ready to go.
Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to turn in all of your contract documents by March 1st to your coordinator. And let us know if you have any questions.
I don't know how to stop sharing.
The budget template for the E&E contract will be sent to you shortly. They're working on it this week, so you'll probably receive it next week. All right, have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Monica.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.